The opinions expressed in the Brothers-in-Law show are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for personal professional legal advice.
Thanks for tuning in to Brothers-in-Law on Go Country 105. I'm Larry Mandel.
And I'm Rob Mandel.
And we've been trial attorneys here in Los Angeles for over 40 years.
On our show, we will discuss current events, talk about legal issues, and have some very entertaining guests stop by. So stay tuned every week for Brothers-in-Law right here on Go Country 105.
Good morning, everyone. This is Larry Mandel, Brothers-in-Law, and I'm with my brother,
Rob Mandel.
Hey, a big shout out to Mortgage Mom. What a great show, huh, Rob?
Hey, Debbie. Yeah, she does a good job. Hey, Larry, what do you think about this current environment where we're really focusing on immigration? And there's talk, and there's, all this divisiveness
and walls.
Yeah, talk about building walls. And, kind of almost like a hostile view of people who want to come to the good old USA and find refuge. What do you think about that?
It is polarizing, isn't it, Rob? It's like we don't want them in, and we are already in. So.
Yeah, our grandparents were from another country, Eastern Europe. They came through Ellis Island, and I know, of course, here in Southern California, we have many people from south of the border that are working here that we interact with. So, it is kind of a crazy thing that, it's a dilemma, I think, because we can't let everybody in, that's for sure.
But there's some good, solid people that are here now that don't have the proper papers, right?
That's right. And it's not that easy. Part of the, I think, of the problem is that the draw to cross illegally is that it's so hard to get actual immigration status in this country, much harder than people realize. And we're lucky to have with us in our studio John Khosravi, who is an immigration expert. He's a lawyer who helps these folks try to get their immigration status. Welcome to the show, John.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome, John.
Thank you.
So, John, tell us a little bit about what you do in the immigration realm.
Sure. I became an immigration attorney pretty quickly out the gate. So when I graduated law school, I kind of fell into it. I wasn't expecting it, but got the first job, that was it. And I fell in love with the practice because you get to be with people on a one-on-one basis and really help them across the process. The focus of my firm is primarily people who are getting married, people who are investing and starting businesses in the United States, and people who have extraordinary abilities. So if you're the top engineer, athlete, actor, musician, whatever you are, I originally did full service every aspect, people in court or people getting deported, or they call that removal nowadays, or asylum. But then I really enjoyed working with families and investors primarily. So that's the main area, but I also teach immigration law. I'm a professor of immigration law at Pepperdine Law School, so I got to be up on everything, and also train attorneys in this process. So I have to know everything about everything. But my personal focus, I like working with families and those kind of cases.
Is it easier? Go ahead.
Well,
Rob.
no. I think you're about to touch on what I was just going to ask, and that is, if you got a skill, you're a highly prized engineer or, a physician.
A lawyer.
Or whatever, you're a professional and you're coming here, or a famous musician or artist, and you want to immigrate to the United States. I mean, that's a lot easier path than this poor person from Guatemala who is fleeing violence and doesn't have a dime, to their name. I mean, right?
Yeah, well, it's hard to say easier. It means there is a path, but the ease of it is still really difficult. A lot of hurdles, as opposed to the other person has no way of getting in. So once you have a degree and some sort of notoriety or skill in what you're doing, that opens the initial path of maybe an option exists, but then there's a minefield ahead of you of what's possible. You may have to find an employer that's willing to sponsor you, which if you're overseas, people here have a hard time finding jobs, let alone if you're in another country trying to find an employer here. or if you're the top person, the skill that you have to prove to an officer who has no idea about anything about your skill that you really are the top, and then go through 4 or 5 different levels of scrutiny, and all along the way the bureaucracy could hit you really hard, and we'll lose out on a top PhD engineer that's going to change the game with solar energy or all these other technologies. It happens constantly. And like my investors, I'm a solo practice. I do everything myself. I'm a simple firm. And I have tens of millions of dollars just in the last couple of years that are on the sidelines, or they decided to go to Canada to invest because the government here just wasn't accepting it. They say, no, we don't want you to come invest here.
Now, why is that? Why do we have this hostile attitude all of a sudden?
It started even before the current administration. So a lot of the hostility to immigration is always there, even in Democratic administrations. It's just people assume that Democrats are more friendly towards immigrants and that kind of stuff. I don't fully understand what the ethos is and what the idea is that they're so harsh, and it's very random. There's a huge amount of inconsistency. So I have a case where it's on the line of whether it's approvable or not, or maybe it's a weak case and it gets approved. Then we have an extremely solid case and it does get approved. So it's just massive inconsistency, lack of education on the part of the adjudicator sometimes, maybe not paying attention. It's just complete inconsistency all around, and it makes it very difficult.
You think it varies from... Go ahead, Larry. I keep stepping on you.
That's all right. No, but walk me through the process. So the approval that you're talking about, I'm going to jump to the end.
Yeah.
Is that through a judicial officer?
No, essentially there's no judicial review of most immigration stuff. Very rarely they've made it like that. It's all discretionary. So first, for example, let's say you have a top, a nuclear scientist who's the genius who's going to change the game here. First, USCIS has to approve the fact that they really are the best, for example, what they're doing, and that requires maybe 1,000 pages of paperwork. And for an officer to understand that nuclear physics, what it is. So it's my job to understand their work first, and then kind of translate that as simpler kind of terms so they could believe that this is a big deal, because they might not understand the science behind it. And then they approve it, yeah.
Wow, so you're saying it's tough for a nuclear physicist from some other country to get immigration status in the USA.
Yeah.
See, I didn't know that.
So that means this dirt farmer from El Salvador who may not even have a third grade education from El Salvador, what chance does that person have?
I mean, unless they get married to a U.S. citizen and they haven't made mistakes in the past. So they might have applied for a tourist visa in the past and had some errors in there because they had their brother who speaks English do the form for them and they couldn't check it, and the brother makes mistakes somewhere. That'll follow their immigration history, and later on they get married to a U.S. citizen, they're going to get a green card, and then they look at the paperwork and say, oh, you lied here. And the guy's like, I don't speak English, I don't know what was there.
So
they're banned.
So doesn't the system kind of encourage these kind of putative or false marriages?
Well, I mean, if you want to come here, if you're running away from some of these countries, you do whatever you can, whether it's false marriage or false asylum claims. All this is possible, and that's where the system's supposed to catch you. And that's the fear of fraud that they have. It's kind of, you never know who's lying, who's not. And I appreciate the difficulties that they have, because there could be a lot of fraud and abuse. But where is that line? How hard do we want to be? Do we want to be strict and not let a lot of people in who probably should come in, or let it loose and let people come in? I think that's a political line.
That's the dilemma.
Dilemma, yeah.
Because don't we really need? I mean, let's be honest. Here we are in California, and our agriculture feeds half the world, and most of the country, and our agriculture depends on these very poor, very uneducated folks,
migrant workers
who are the great, fantastic workers who know what they're doing in the fields.
Yeah.
And it's a very, very hard, harsh work that a lot of people wouldn't want to do or couldn't do in the same way. And so don't we have an equal need for someone like that than a nuclear physicist from some of the
I mean, it's economically counterproductive. So what do you think about that, John?
Yeah, I mean, those top end jobs are few or far between. They stand out, but you need everything, really. And that's the base of this country, to have support of all these people, and they could bring something that we don't even expect that comes with it. Not to say a bad thing, it'd be a good thing that comes. And so I think the economic demand should be first and foremost, really. I mean, there's a security aspect, you watch out. make sure it's not someone has some crazy history or criminal
Right.
history. And they do that. You know, the U.S. government works with countries from all across the world to share information, and they request police certificates many times and that kind of stuff. But we need it. I mean, if we're a growing country, if we're an economic powerhouse, we constantly need people. Like right now, China is booming because it has all these people that are coming from the villages now to the city, and they have that. And that's what we did in our industrial revolution, the 1800s and 1900s. So to continue that boom, we need people, and we need all sorts of people. But then, you know, it's the decision the population has to make. But the good thing about these discussions is that people have a better understanding of it because they don't really think the whole aspects of these. You know, there's migrants that come. There's people that are hotel workers that come. Like for example, in Florida, a lot of the hotels there in the summer it's so hot they don't have enough employees, so they have to bring temporary workers to come clean the rooms and stuff. But these things are needed in a thriving economy that we have. If we were losers here not doing anything, then yeah, no one would want to come here. But there's just so much going on.
We're Larry and Rob Mandel, the brothers-in-law, here on Go Country 105. Do you have a legal issue you need help with? We want to hear from you.
Find us on Instagram and send us a message. Then tune in on Saturdays at 8 a.m. right here on Go Country 105.
So can these workers that you're mentioning, like in Florida, can they get a visa to come in and work?
There is a temporary seasonal worker visa, and it's used frequently. That's the main one that they use, like for agriculture and the like. But I mean, for the last couple of years, sometimes they'll hold up the visas until the picking season ends and all the fruit dies on the tree. So this stuff will happen. And it's, you know, each visa is really expensive to hire a lawyer, do all the paperwork, the background checks, and the new checks that the administration is adding right now. So it's like, how much am I going to make as a farmer? I'm bringing these kind of people here as the owner, as opposed to how much I'm paying for a lawyer, the filing fees, and then the transfer fees, all this kind of stuff. And if it takes them an extra week or two to issue the visa at the embassy in Mexico, then half my crop's going to die, and then what are you going to do? Yeah.
What a crazy situation.
This is quite a dilemma. It's probably better to have a lawyer start the process, right? It's too confusing otherwise.
It's so easy. Because I have clients who come to me and they do. I mean, a marriage case doesn't necessarily have to have a lawyer, but people go there and they joke around. Sometimes say something that's inappropriate, and we got to talk to them. It's like, no, it's not an appropriate thing to say. They might have photos on their Instagram page that don't look good. And it's like, well, why did you do this? Or you could talk with them and get the idea behind it. Or they fill out the forms. Most of the times they fill out the forms as if it's not important. They miss information or they misspell stuff. And that's huge consequences down the line for their future. I have constantly people who put the wrong birthday in, misspell their own names. They figure out their birth certificate doesn't have their proper date of birth on it. They never pay attention to it in 40 years. There's just so much paperwork involved, and human beings have this annoyance of dealing with any paperwork I've seen that you need to have a lawyer that has the patience to go through it. And then that's if you don't have issues. And then once you have issues of previous marriages where they might think this is not a real marriage, for example, or anything that could potentially pop up from certain countries that are problematic, there's just too many things going on that you got to keep an eye on. It's very hard to do it on your own. It's unfortunate because it's expensive, to hire me thousands of dollars easily, and that's tough for people. And so it's a difficult situation. I try my best to have stuff on YouTube where people can watch and know material, but it's really easy to mess up, really easy.
And how long is this process?
How do people afford this? I mean, if they're, if they're a nuclear physicist and they're from a highly educated family, I assume they have money.
Yeah.
From India or Iran or whatever. But from south of the border, I keep looking down there because we're
in LA.
We're in LA. Yeah. We interact with people from South America, Central America, and Mexico every day. Mm-hmm. So, how does someone like that even have a prayer?
And that's the problem. They don't, and so they go in there not knowing what's going on. There's deadlines all the time, or like they get a request for evidence for more information. They miss that deadline constantly, and so what they do is they try to do it themselves, which is a big problem that leads to deportation. Or they hire this person that their buddy helped them, and it's just some person who, it's like these tax preparers who aren't accountants who just fill out the 1040 form or whatever it is for taxes. They'll fill out the form. But the form is just a minute part of it. It's really picking out things that could cause inadmissibility or removability, or a history's not right, or their divorce certificate wasn't properly finalized, so the second marriage is not a real marriage. It's a bigamous marriage, and that's a crime. It's not allowed. And they don't bother looking at their paperwork to see, oh yeah, they never, the judge never stamped my divorce certificate. We need to get that done. So, yeah.
And how long is this process, would you say, generally?
Yeah, it depends on the type of case. I mean, it could be, it could be a couple months to nowadays many years. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. So the Statue of Liberty has an inscription on it, and it says, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore."
Well, it's a lot different now, I think.
Well, what do you think? Do you think that that is an irrelevant and an archaic notion now?
You know, I did some study on the founders, what they thought about immigration. It was a mixed bag. You know, sometimes at the beginning of the revolution, they were really into it. One of the main reasons that we declared independence in it was the fact that the British Crown wouldn't give America the right to naturalize people. And they had all these people coming here. And at the time, if you're not a citizen, you can't pass down property to your children, you can't own property. There's all these kind of property laws. So they really wanted people to be able to get citizenships, to get own property, and have a stake in this community here, not just go back. So you see from the day, we want people to here to come, and it's really an economic issue. We just want people to work, make money. That's American ethos. Nowadays, if people are coming, we have laws about getting benefits and stuff that didn't exist 100 years ago. And so
I think that's the main thing that rubs people the wrong way.
Yeah.
The notion that someone's going to come here, maybe not make enough money or not make any money, and then go on our welfare system somehow and get Medi-Cal or Medicare.
Sure.
And is that a real worry?
It just drains the system.
It is both. There's yes and no, and that's what this month actually has been a big push of the administration. There's an injunction against it now, but a public charge rule. There's a public charge rule that says if they think in their opinion that you're going to come here and go on benefits, then they could ban you from coming in. But they never really spelled out what this rule is. And on the 15th, they instituted a really harsh rule that's going to cut down on a lot of immigration. And there was an injunction against it that came in a few days before, so it's on hold now. But then last Friday night, I believe, a week or two ago, or I can't remember the date exactly, but the president announced that you have to show you have health insurance if you're coming here with a green card, which is kind of hard if you don't have a social security number. How do you get health insurance when you're not already here? So
it's unrealistic.
I don't think there's any health insurance in half these countries down south.
Stay connected with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and of course, brothersonlaw.com.
Hey, if you missed any part of this show or you just want to hear it again, go to brothersonlaw.com for all of our previous shows and all things Brothers on Law. As a society, though, I mean, maybe you don't know, but I mean, do we need to worry? Is that like a real problem that we have, hordes of people coming up here and then just instantly getting on some kind of public assistance?
When it comes to statistics, I've seen both sides of this. It's really hard to tell. But there is one aspect that these people are working here many times, and they're a lot of times paying into the Social Security system, which you're never going to get any money out of, so they are contributing. Just having young blood here is a contribution that you can't make it tangible. But if you're coming and, medical care is so expensive in America, it's so ridiculous that there is a cost. But maybe we should try to solve why medical care is so unnecessarily expensive here. And that'll cut down the cost.
That's true.
Yeah, that's one way to solve the problem.
What I found on immigration is a lot of the issues people have on immigration are side effects of other bad policies, whether it's our foreign policy, whether it's our drug policy, and all these have repercussions that when you look at, for example, in Europe, the migration crisis there, a lot of people from Libya and Syria rushing to Europe. Well, it's like the European powers went and bombed Libya and Syria with help.
That's true.
You create the situation.
These are all former colonies. Yeah.
So you create this, and then the side effect is immigration, and you try to cut that down. But it's like, well, it's like having cancer, going through chemotherapy, and you're worried about losing your hair. It's like, well, it's the cancer. Let's deal with the cancer, which is policies, And that's why we look at drug policies right now. It's Mexico drug cartels. There's a war right now there. Well, we're doing a lot of drugs here. Maybe we shouldn't have all these drugs banned. Maybe we should have legal, make it a health situation. It's a very controversial subject, but that'll maybe alleviate the need for cartels to control the mafia, just like in the 1920s when they used to run the alcohol and stuff like that, prohibition.
Get the discussion going. But, Rob, I do want to talk about one thing from our world, and that is if a illegal alien is injured for instance, in the state of California, can he or she get loss of earnings?
I think that there's been back and forth on that. I think originally, if you were let's say you're making $15 an hour as a farm worker, you get in a car accident, you could not claim, and you couldn't work for a couple of months, you couldn't claim that $15 an hour unless you could show that you had a green card, or some kind of legal immigration status. And that was law for many years, and I think recently that got thrown out, didn't it?
I'm not sure. I don't have the answer to that.
Well, now you just threw us our own loop.
Yeah.
Well,
Do you know about that one?
I know for employment-based law where your employer is doing something wrong against you, I think in California they have passed statutes to protect the employee. So let's say they can't have repercussions come at you, and it's not a focus because we want people to complain about bad employers. But the immigrants are too afraid to do anything. So a lot of times nothing comes of it.
That's so true.
And I think in California they've made some stuff where to benefit even if you're not here lawfully, just to be fair about those kind of abuses that do happen or crimes or things that are inflicted on people. I don't know an exact statute about that.
I think if you make the claim, then the issue of illegal status can come in, and that might be something that you don't want to have come into.
I don't think
testimony.
that's true in California right now. I think it was true for a while. In other words, if you wanted to make a claim for your loss of earnings, then your legal status was relevant. But I think that law got thrown out.
I'd imagine with
Seems
California the way it
unfair.
is, they would have gotten away with it. Yeah.
Have you suffered or been injured by someone else's negligence? When you need a legal team that will stand up for what is right, won't give up the fight and obtain justice, call 818-886-6600. Mandel Trial Lawyers specializes in personal injury cases of all types. Whether it's a car accident, product or premises liability, dog bite, or a catastrophic injury, Mandel Trial Lawyers are there for you when the fight is worth it. Call now for your free consultation. 818-886-6600. Let the scales of justice tip in your favor.
I mean, it's one thing if someone wants to come here and work and try and make themselves, like I said, our grandparents came from another country. I think you, John, you have an immigrant background as well.
Yes, my parents from Iran. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So but if someone comes here and they're suspected or they have committed a serious crime, and I'm not talking about just being here as a crime, but I'm talking about a violent crime of some kind. Do I even want to spend the money to prosecute them and jail them and house them in our country? Don't you forfeit the right to be here immediately by committing some kind of bad crime?
You do have to go through immigration court system. Once you commit the crime, they put you through a process of removal. I mean, unless it's some extreme situation where if you go back to your home country, they're going to kill you, they're going to remove you.
Yeah.
But through the process of holding them and taking them out, and the courts are so backed up until they get their hearing date, it could be a while. So just arbitrarily, they might just be hanging out here.
In jail.
Yeah, in immigration detention, depending on how difficult the situation is, because they're overcrowded there as well. One thing the policy of the administration has, it's gung-ho about getting everybody, and that fills up the court system. And before they would say, if it's a case where it's like not that urgent, we'll put that case on hold to get the priority ones, but now nothing's going on hold. So what happens, you might have a criminal situation where you really want to get this person out of here, but there's 10 people that are children or parents of U.S. citizens that are just here illegally for a long time. They are in front of them in the line to get removed, so they have to wait for their court hearing to get finished. So due process is key, but it's due prosecutor discretion, and that's not happening under this administration. It doesn't make sense. And when you look at the numbers that they're attacking, the relative numbers of non-criminal people have gone up tremendously relative, and have come down to the criminal ones. The push was to catch the bad guys, the bad hombres, if you will. That hasn't been happening as much. Under Obama's administration, there's a very high deportation count. He was really the deporter in chief. Obama was really big into deportation. His numbers were really high. So you can't really say he was not for that. But he was really pushing the gang stuff and all that kind of stuff and putting holds on parents who are just old, been here 40 years and that kind of stuff. And now everyone's going.
Hey, so Rob, John, we're going to have to bring John back again.
I know, but I want to ask John one last question before we jump into this other stuff. And that is this: do we need to be afraid of immigrants?
It's just people. I don't think so. I mean, we live in LA. Pretty much everyone's either immigrant or children of immigrant here or somewhat connected. I don't think there's that much difference. There's statistics on both sides that say immigrants do less crime, some say more. And one thing I learned from studying statistics in college is you can't trust statistics. So just from personal experience, if people who come to me, I don't have anything to fear. It's just if people have a good life and they're making money and just having fun, and that's it. The stress we're putting, because there's a population of millions of illegal immigrants here, obviously. And the fear of someone knocking on the door constantly and deporting them is causing depression. Depression causes alcoholism, causes drug abuse, causes them to beat their family, all this kind of stuff. And that leads to crimes, DUI and who might hit you. So I think not stressing out people so much is pretty much the way to go, and then having options and just working with it. Because at the end of the day, they're here, and so they're in our midst. And so we could create civil war and fighting and really hatred. And you see this stuff in it go really controversial. Constantly hear people say, oh, white people are like this, white people are like this. It's commonplace to say white privilege, this and that. And there is white privilege in the world, that kind of stuff, but it's so comfortable. I see, and I'm I'm a brown person, but I'm very hesitant to constantly attack white people, but by this push of being anti-immigrant, they go on one side, then they come back and say white people are like this, they push on that side, and that causes civil strife that's not needed. So we really need to figure out a way to just bring it all together rather than attack each other, because it's going to tear apart the nation.
Yeah, well stated, John.
We're Larry and Rob Mandel, the brothers-in-law, here on Go Country 105. Do you have a legal issue you need help with? We want to hear from you.
Find us on Instagram and send us a message. Then tune in on Saturdays at 8 a.m. right here on Go Country 105. All right, so Larry, let's check the Mandel message box. What do you think?
Sure.
Hi, this is Caitlin from Sun Valley. I went into the grocery store, and when I came out, I saw that my car was dented from a shopping cart. Is the market at all at fault?
Okay, so what do you think, Larry? Caitlin...
The shopping cart?
Yeah.
I don't think that she's going to be successful in holding the store responsible unless a store employee actually placed the cart in that area. It's going to be too difficult because a customer could just put the cart and then also...
More likely that's what happened.
Yeah, and then the wind or whatever,
You could probably find some way of holding them liable, but it would be such a convoluted mixture of, an expensive venture to try and prove that their shopping cart system was awry.
I mean, you could ask the market. They may do it as a goodwill gesture to fix it anyway.
Probably not. Yeah. But that's why you have, hopefully you have that insurance, what's that, comprehensive insurance. Yeah. Although, there's usually people have a big deductible on that, so a little dent from the shopping cart may be cheaper to fix out of pocket.
There are these mobile dent fixers.
That's right.
One of them.
There you go. I think we know. So call us. We know a few.
Yeah, right.
But I think the moral of that story too is that, you may want to ask the market, hey, do you have it on film? Maybe they have it on a video of the parking lot. You can actually see the person who dented your car with that parking lot. These days we got film of everything.
Why not? Smart.
So,
it's about time to wrap it up, Rob.
Yeah, I guess it is. I like you say, I think we could have John back and we could have a very thorough discussion. I'd like to hear from some more callers and some people emailing on this kind of thing.
On the immigration issue, yeah.
So please do send us your call in or send us your emails, and we'll try and get your questions answered in this.
Yeah. Hey, John, how can the public reach you?
Sure, my website's jqqlaw.com. I'm all over the place on the internet, so you put my name, John Khosravi, there, or just JQK Law, it'll all come up.
How do you spell Khosravi?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, Khosravi.
Is there a phone number, too, they can reach you?
Sure, 818-934-1561, 818-934-1561.
Perfect. Hey, John, we really enjoyed having you on our show.
I had a great time. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, man. And if folks, if you missed any part of this show, or you want to hear it again, or you want to listen to our previous shows, go to brothersonlaw.com for all things Brother on Law.
We're also on YouTube, Rob.
Hey, are we?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in, and check out next week's show at the same time, 8 a.m. here on Go Country 105. And remember,
let the scales of justice tip in your favor.
The opinions expressed in the Brothers on Law show are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for personal professional legal advice.